All right, you little freaks. So we are here for another episode of PhiloPhilosophy, and once again, we have a lot that we want to talk about. Tanner's going to be talking about Fingerprints of the Gods, written by Graham Hancock, pyramids, ancient civilizations, everything you could ever want to hear if you're stoned as hell, but we're not, so it's okay. PhiloPhilosophy, bitches. Alright, so it's July. It's a great middle of July almost feeling as we attempt to delve deep into this bullshit. Tanner has, well, we kind of always have been wanting to talk about, like, kind of ancient stuff, so let's, and this gave us the perfect occasion. Tanner picked up Fingerprints of the Gods, fantastic book by Graham Hancock. I have not quite read it, but I understand it to be really good. I've heard it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's quite an older book. It's from like 95-ish.
Oh, that's old as hell.
Yeah, exactly.
That's as old as I am.
Yeah, about 18 years. So.
Yeah, all right, that is actually a damn.
Yeah.
Poor Graham Hancock. He's already getting on a bit. That guy.
I know, like, I'm trying to think. I saw an interview with him like a while ago, and he's like about 50-ish.
He was a huge stoner. Anyways, he was a huge stoner. But anyways, so... what's one of the points that you were bringing up about it? Because like you had said mainly.
Well, one of the premises of this book is, if you're familiar with the ancient astronaut theory, which if you've ever watched History Channel for more than
heck, if you've been on the internet, you'll have seen that aliens meme.
But if you've watched History Channel for 1 hour, since they are stuck on reporting that we were visited by aliens, and that's the only way we have such high advanced civilizations so early at the beginning of when humans essentially became civilized, such as the pyramids were founded towards this early era, most mathematics, astronomy was founded at the beginning of the era of when civilization was started. So basically what people say is that we were visited by super advanced individuals, whether that be aliens or super civilizations that existed before.
So before you get into that, let me say this. So I was going to tell you about the Yugas forever ago. So let me tell you really quick right now, because this is kind of the building block for this entire, ancient, super civilization. Not aliens, but like super civilizations.
Yeah, sorry.
So the Yugas, this is what, whether it's Hinduism or something believes. Let me just finish this one real quick. So there's like 4 different periods of time, whether it's, the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, and like the Black Age. I don't know, like some bullcrap age. Now we're in the 4th Yuga or whatever, which is like the worst of the Yugas. We have descended all the way into medieval times. That's where it was the worst, and we're slowly ascending. Now, the next Yuga in this 4-part cycle is the Golden Age. So we, theoretically, if this holds true, this cycle, this calendar, which is kind of in every civilization, this kind of cycle, we will be hitting the Golden Age at some point in the next 100 to 500 years. I forget what it is, somewhere in that period. And because of this cycle, the last time we were in Kali Yuga is the cycle we're in now, but the last time we were in the other Yuga, the Golden Yuga, was 8,000 years ago, somewhere around there. And because of that was the last time humanity was enlightened. And not to the extent we will become in the next Yuga, if it holds true, but back then, that's where the whole Atlantis, well, actually no, I think that's after the time, but like the pyramids and all these crazy ancient structures were in the peak of the Golden Age, which is then where we started ascending, etc. And that's kind of how this book kind of that's not in the book, but that theory is a good basis to go off of.
I'm not quite familiar with what you said, but it actually really does apply to the book, which essentially says all of these cultures, like varying from the Egyptians, the Mayan, the Aztec, all the way to the Babylonians and some of the Aboriginal tribes in Australia, they all have these stories of that the Earth has been destroyed several times, like throughout its history. Whether there's not an exact number, but they range from like 3 times to 5 times to 10 times that the Earth has been completely destroyed, and each one in a different way. Now, most of these stories emerged that the last time that the Earth was destroyed was a giant flood washed over the Earth and cleansed it of humanity, and that there was only 2 survivors, a man and a woman. Now, most of these cultures you would think that they were influenced by the Judeo-Christian belief of emerging from the Bible, or even the earlier legends from like Mesopotamia, such as the Babylonian stories of the Gilgamesh story.
Gilgamesh.
Yeah, thank you. Now, most of these premises are that we do live in cycles of whether like of cultural advancement or cultural decline, and like one of the main premises of this book was essentially that if you look into it, if you're familiar with astronomy, the Earth, the sun, will appear like it's rising in a certain constellation, and for like about 2,000 years, it was shining into the Pisces, which is why the fish is really related to Christ, because it was around this time that Pisces was in this vision of the sun, and 2,000 years later is when it ends, but that's the reason. So early Christians brought on the fish as the sign of Christ. Now, many of these cycles, they have like Leo, Virgo, all of the astronomy signs.
Good
Sorry,
God.
I am just tripping over my words. Well, another premise of the book where he really shows that we started a civilization way earlier than any other archaeologist says we did. Was
like the Sphinx,
yeah, exactly,
the pyramids could not have been built. Just like they could not have been built with even today's technology. It would be hard to have built those things.
In fact, I think
they were smart.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's either Stonehenge or the pyramids, but there's a group of kind of activists, not activists, but archaeologists that are rebuilding it to scale, like a smaller scale.
Probably Stonehenge then.
Yeah, I think it is Stonehenge. And using the techniques that these ancient Celtic tribes would have used. Now, they're going to see if they can finish it with the timeline of which it said it was built, how long it's going to take, how much manpower it takes, and just to see if it's even possible.
All right, well, let's get on one lane here. I want to clarify though real quick. So, Sat Yuga is the first Yuga, and that's the age of truth. We are in Kali Yuga, which is the darkest of the Yugas, and the next Yuga is Sat Yuga, Satya Yuga, whatever the hell it is, the Age of Enlightenment. And so here's one thing that kind of ties in. So people are like, where's evidence of the civilization? Where's all this? Now, this is one of the things on the Egyptian pyramids, the Sphinx, rather, in particular. So there is water erosion on the Sphinx. It's the Sphinx, because the face is all effed up.
No. The Sphinx was buried under sand, and
first of all, the Sphinx, they think that it's like from 2,000 years ago. They had to undig it. No, they think it was like from ancient Egypt, which is like,
but no, that would have been about,
which is like Christ time, a little bit before that. 4,000 BC. They had to unbury that mother effer in 2000 BC or whatever the hell. So that thing had been there for ages, and it had water damage that could only have happened. No, it is the Sphinx.
It's the pyramid. The Sphinx was.
Is it?
Yeah, the Sphinx has repeatedly been buried in sand. In fact, if you don't carefully conserve the Sphinx even today, it will be buried up to its head in sand. Like, it's one of those projects where
it's the Sphinx.
I don't think it is. I think it
is.
Here, look up the pyramids. That's the one I'm familiar with, because I know the Sphinx often gets buried under sand, so that would make more sense that there would be less.
They're both eroded, but I mean, Yeah, exactly. The Sphinx, the Great Sphinx, water erosion on the Great
Anyway,
Sphinx.
sorry, we're kind of diverting.
No,
here,
I'm
but-
trying to go on the Sphinx, dog. It's not the pyramids. The Sphinx has water erosion on it from thousands of years of rainfall. The last time there was rainfall in the Nile was 7,000 years ago.
10,000.
Or around that period of time. It was a long time ago. We don't know what we're talking about, but we know the basics. We're giving you an outline.
Basically, it was around the time of the last ice age.
Ages ago.
Yeah, and also, like, most people say, where is this evidence? Where is it?
It's right there.
Look at the cultural development. Many of these cultures just sprung out of nothing and were developed with math, agriculture, all these advanced techniques, and we say, well, look, that's how most civilizations start.
Well, aren't there hieroglyphics there?
Yes, inside the pyramid there are... Well, no, sorry, there's 0 hieroglyphics inside the pyramid.
Yeah.
Like, many people connect...
Sure?
There's 0.
Oh, I thought there was. My bad.
Inside the pyramids, which is another sign why would a burial tomb... Like, we're all familiar with the King Tut exhibit. If you've ever been, it's amazing. It's
yeah,
amazing.
I get you. Yeah,
But
I get you.
There's hieroglyphics.
Dude, the pyramids would have been beautiful back in the day.
I know, 'cause
they were like covered in limestone
and
gold. Woo! Dude, taking a girl there, man, her eyes would fall out of her toes. I don't even know what that means. That'd be horrifying.
Eyes out of her toes.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like one of those cartoon depictions where your eyes just drop to the floor?
Basically,
All right.
and you're going to step on them. It's going to be bad news.
Well,
beautiful.
where was I? But there's inside the pyramid, there's 0. Well, sorry, not 0. There's a few hieroglyphics, but they don't ever refer to who built them, which is strange for a place that would be a final place of rest. For, I think it was Khufu.
Didn't they find diamond bit drill marks in some of these tombs?
Yes, they did find diamond bit drill marks inside some of the limestone, but there's been no really explanation. It's kind of glossed over. It's just like, this is just... We
don't have an explanation.
We don't have an explanation, and we can't really explain it, so it's kind of glossed over because that's the minority, not the majority.
Most of it was just
the evidence. So.
Yeah, then most of it wasn't diamond bit drills. It was just normal stuff.
Exactly.
But there were precision areas.
I mean, the entire pyramids were designed
with
precision.
The whole thing is freaking bananas.
I think
there's millions. You cannot.
I think the largest flaw on it is it's 55 millimeters of a flaw. That's the largest it gets from being flat.
So I'm not so fussed about how they got the stone. People are like, well, how'd they get the stones there? I'm not as fussed about how they got the stones there, even though I know they're heavy. I know they're mined miles and miles away and rock in a quarry. But it's more about the mathematical precision of getting these things exactly perfect. I mean, that's what is more bananas to me.
Here's what it is. These people did not have any pulley systems. They did not have cranes.
Essentially, what do they do? Just build ramps? That's what they think. That's what they think.
But exactly. Let's think about it. Let's see how big the pyramids are. How big of a ramp do you have to build around this? And why are there no signs of these ramps? Did they just tear them down immediately after? That makes 0 sense.
Well, it would if they didn't. Well, they don't want to
But I'm just saying, where
keep it ugly.
There would be signs of these giant ramps in the landscape.
Yeah, that's true. There'd be huge. Well,
there'd be stories of the building of this ramp. It seems like building a ramp would be more.
Building a ramp that could support the hauling those stones would leave you would be able to find
essentially
them.
What I'm thinking,
unless maybe I don't know.
Essentially, what I'm thinking from these ramp is they're going to be mud bricks, like that we're all familiar with of how many early civilizations built homes was these sun baked bricks, or they were actually using the same material, but that makes 0 sense because you'd have to cannibalize the same ramp that you're using at the same time as building these pyramids.
Where do you start when building these things?
You really can't. I mean, there's 0 explanation on this. And
I built a card deck of a house out of cars. I don't even know where to start with that.
And the main point also is that many early civilizations did build pyramids. It's not just the Egyptians. If you're familiar,
Mayans.
But see, Mayans, Aztecs. But that's not just it. If you're familiar with the Ohio Valley area, there are several of these pyramids made from mud, and they're just enormous. And these are people that people like archaeologists say.
Why the heck did they build these things? Like, I know the ones in Egypt are huge. Were huge tombs, but like, isn't there some sort of like crisscrossing grid across the world where like over certain art, like in the like Aztec, like there's this huge grid. This is okay. I can't even articulate, so I'm not gonna try. Do you know what I'm talking about? Kind of.
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, so theory is that this is kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. So, and I have no like evidence to back this up. I haven't researched it. I just kind of know the premise that there is kind of like a grid of energy around this Earth, and where certain lines connect, there are certain stronger points. Like there's certain strong energy points, and pyramids are connected to one of the strong energy points.
I am actually familiar with
the Aztec ones are connected. You know, like all these major places in the world are connected to this grid.
What that is, Avery, is
I have no idea.
It's a theory propagated, I think, mainly by ancient astronaut theorists, that it's a magnetic. These are magnetic pinpoints where the magnetic pole is extremely strong, and it's way more powerful than any other areas in the world, and it happens to align on pyramids. But I've looked into that before, and it's more actual guesswork than really a theory.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting kind of idea, I guess, more than
it's more just like tossing around.
Exactly.
I'm not exactly sure. Like, and even if it is true, like, what does that even mean?
It means that obviously
they knew. I mean, about the grid.
If it is true, then it points out these civilizations are way more advanced than we give them credit for. I mean, often today, like we'll find evidence that these earlier civilizations are more than just people crowding together.
Yeah, they knew about astronomy. They knew we're freaking. Okay, so the oldest writing ever known. Here, you can talk for a second.
Would that be Sumer?
Sumeria. That's right. Oldest known writing.
Cuneiform.
Smartest, awful crude rock carving. They knew about freaking Pluto, and we didn't even know about Pluto like until when was it? 1900, 18,
it'd be 1945.
Wow,
it was 19.
That's when it was like classified.
Sorry, it's somewhere in the 1900s. It could be between 1920 and 1945.
Yeah, they knew where freaking Pluto was thousands of years ago.
And that's another interesting point that's brought up in the book. These early civilizations developed writing, advanced forms of writing that were comprehensible and able to understand overnight.
Way before even like Jerusalem and
this is way
before Christ. And they had shitty writing back then. And
actually
before that they had like Sumer had like a decent writing system that is decipherable. They could. They had mathematics. They had astrology. They had the caduceus. DNA. They knew about the DNA strands. That's
helix, double helix.
Yeah, they knew about the double helix. That's true. They have it.
Where is that? Sorry, I'm not familiar with that one. I do know that some people credit Sumerians way more than they should, just off like information's in the Epic of Gilgamesh, where it slightly shows over there. Let's see.
These are all. We're looking at pictures of old Sumerian artifacts and drawings.
And the thing is, going back to the handwriting, I keep coming back to this, but the fact that it developed overnight, almost instantly, and there's no evidence of this language developing from a extremely crude form of handwriting to up to a more sophisticated and slowly advancing. There's no really archaeological files of this happening. It just seems like it developed into this completely comprehensible language, and there's not really a build-up to it. It just happened.
Well, in theory, if...
I mean, yeah, that's true. There's still blank gaps in
I don't give a shit.
The archaeology.
I mean, like, in theory, if the yugas and all these cycles are kind of true, if we're in the dark yuga right now, man, imagine what's going to happen in the next yuga. Like, we are going to be enlightened beyond enlightened.
And that was the premise of the book was... I keep saying premise. There's so many premises in this book.
There's a lot of stupid
ideas and theses. And the idea was that all these civilizations say that we started a dark time. That after this colossal flood, wiped out,
catastrophic flood,
just destroyed the earth,
which would lend credence to Noah's Ark, all that, but not the Ark itself, but like the story of the Great Floods, because that's kind of that story is replicated in many cultures.
Oh yeah, I believe there's 80 separate cultures that aren't even related to any Judeo-Christian idea.
And they've mentioned Great Floods,
and they mentioned most of the Mayans, Aztecs have stories of this Great.
So
flood.
Is that after the Ice Age when it melted? Is that why that's a lot of the flooding happened?
That's the idea he brings up, but he says why the last time that we can even record a global flood to this level would have been after the last Ice Age. In fact, if you're familiar with the Five Finger Lakes in New York, those are all flood lakes. Glacier lakes.
From Ice Age. Yeah,
exactly.
Those aren't, are all, that's not natural.
Exactly, that a glacier essentially built up a giant reservoir and finally just broke.
Same with Utah, right? I don't know if that was an Ice Age thing.
No.
But before that, there was a huge lake.
Only in Uintas was there really glaciers, and there weren't really even big ones. But
yeah, all right. Fair enough.
But yes, in fact, I think sea levels after the last Ice Age rose about 375 feet. It could be more.
That's a lot.
I mean, yes, it completely put New York under.
Oh, completely. Everyone would,
I destroyed massive amounts of coast. I mean,
it'd flood almost up to freaking where would that be?
If we was 375 feet,
Chicago.
California would be underwater, except for maybe parts of the sea area.
We'd be pretty fine.
Oh yeah, we're 10,000 feet up.
Yeah, we'd be fine. Screw on.
Oh, sorry, not 4,000. We're not in the Andes.
Yeah, no, freak that. 10,000. Jesus Christ.
Sorry, I'm out of it tonight.
We're all out of it. Let's be honest.
Anyway, and what he says is after this Ice Age is that this culture, this super advanced culture, was went out on a massive voyage, colonial kind of a thing, and just kind of seeded knowledge to all these different civilizations, and who immediately blossomed.
When?
It was around 4000 BC.
Yeah, fuck right. Yeah, blossomed or shit. That was when we were dumb as hell.
4000 was the peak of really civilization building.
When was the tower, the myth of the Tower of Babel? When was that? That kind of Babylonian era? That was 3,000, 4,000 years ago? BC, I mean. 3,000 BC?
Around that era is when the Babylonians...
It's like when Jonah got swallowed by Moby's dick. I don't know.
It was actually a Leviathan. People just connect it with a whale, but...
The Leviathan? The sea monster?
It's a Leviathan. Not in the Bible. Actually, you might mention Leviathan in the Bible, but in the
the Leviathan in the Bible is scary as hell.
It's See, everyone says it's a whale, but that's just because that's how we... Christian apologists refer to it.
First of all, the story's probably not even real.
Exactly. Whales can't swallow humans. It's impossible. But what it says is this Leviathan, but people just mainly Christian apologists connect it with a whale.
There are fewer things more badass than artistic renditions of giant monsters. Good God. Look up the Leviathan from the Bible. Jesus, man. Imagine just seeing that one day. In your
How
suit.
did we get brought up on Jonah?
Well, we were talking about Babylonian 3,000 years ago.
Okay.
Holy hell.
If we also look into global floods destroying super advanced cultures, one of the earliest ones that emerges is, of course, Atlantis. Which is...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Not to beat a dead horse.
Exactly. I mean, everyone from forever has said... Atlantis, that's clear sign that the global floods are correct.
It's it's the same thing with, Bigfoot and aliens. So many people have talked about it. I bet there is something, whether it is a super advanced city that sunk. Civilization, I mean, rather.
It's more than city-states.
Well, they said that this is conjecture, and I might not be wrong. I might not be right, but... So, off Australia's coast, near New Zealand, there used to be a lot bigger of a landmass which sunk. They have, they can go underwater geologically and find this sunken landmass. Whether or not that was the birthplace of, kind of these super civil, because they know that, goddamn, I don't even know what the hell I'm saying, to be honest with you. I'm just thinking about the Leviathan, how big his dick is.
And see, there's all over the world you can find gigantic land masses where it could have supported civilization. I mean, and this is all conjecture. Could have, would have, maybe. It's really up to your what you really believe in.
Yeah.
Now, see, and I wouldn't even classify Atlantis along the lines of Bigfoot or aliens or anything like that because, see, if
we have more evidence for it than
aliens. The only evidence that we even have a connection with is Plato.
Plato's, little snippet. Well, okay, but see, Jesus, there's a lot of references, dude, to Atlantis, right? Am I wrong?
No,
that's
Plato,
it. Oh,
Plato's the only one. Everyone other one emerges from Plato.
Damn, that sucks.
But
what the hell did Plato get
Plato doesn't claim it from himself. He claims it was his. I can't remember if it was his actual father, but his father-in-law. But
this is shaky.
He goes all the way to Pericles, who was this great politician in, I believe, Athens.
Confirmed?
It could be Athens. It's one of the Greek city-states. He's a great politician. And he said that 10,000 years earlier, and that's just it. He said thousands of years earlier that there's a civilization called Atlantis. He didn't say it was a recent event. He didn't say it happened during anyone's lifetime. But he said that there's a civilization then. But the thing is, I can never discount a historical reference because obviously it has a grain of truth with it.
All myths have a grain of truth.
I mean, you can't just discount it on its face as saying those guys were ancient, they didn't know what we're talking about, we're the most advanced culture in the world. You just can't immediately throw it out the window. I mean, if that happened, we wouldn't have found the city of Troy in Asia Minor. Because that was always just accounted as Homer's just making up stuff. Homer wanted to write an amazing story, so he made up this city named Troy.
No, we found it.
We found it. And that's just it, because people, real archaeologists, real scientists, don't discount something because it has a connection with myth, legend, or just
true science,
or just anything.
No, and here's
the world.
And here's another, like following that, a true scientist. Most scientists just go along with, Egypt's only this amount of years old. Now, true scientists should look at the evidence. Really look at the evidence and not just stay in the comfort zone of, we kind of know this, so let's just continue teaching it and researching that.
You also have to...
Yes, but they should really re-examine and maybe think, maybe we kind of have this wrong. Maybe there was a super civilization.
But you also have to think that many of these people have made their entire career...
Their whole entire life
dedicated to... In fact, they've even wrote their theses to their doctorates based on the idea of what they believe. It's no longer to the sign that they can change, because that would essentially change everything they've ever known and appear falsely.
It's not only an ego thing, but a comfort thing.
It's completely an ego thing.
It's totally an ego thing, and it's also totally a comfort thing. It's hard to go outside that realm of possibility. Sucks for them.
And,
but
I've never really heard a good argument against the limestone having water erosion. I mean, the best argument I've heard really is it was carried down the Nile, and that's the water. But that's all we have time.
Time has made fools of us again. Damn it. We got like 40 seconds left. So follow us on Spreaker for more PhiloPhilosophies and raunch news. If we can get Adam's hunch ass over here every now and again to record some episodes.
We won't.
We won't, but, just follow us. There's a lot going on. We're always having kind of fun talks, etc., etc. So thanks again for tuning in, and have yourselves a great night, people.
Thank you for tuning in to Radio Raunch. If you think I'm a woman, you might want to check your pants.